Cool. Cool. So Andreas, you and I have been in touch for like, I don't know, maybe a year now, or
a long time. Yeah, it seems like.
But finally, I managed to get to book you because you're very busy. I mean, you also have small kids, I think, right?
Yeah, I have 2 kids.
Exactly. So not easy to run a company, grow a company, a bootstrap company, have kids, and have a bit of time for yourself. So and thank you for coming. So just a little bit of background. I invited you because I admire and I love bootstrap companies for many reasons. Even if I'm an investor, so I should be pushing for startups to raise money and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not that I have a soul or but there is a reason why some companies need to fundraise, and there is a reason why some companies can bootstrap. And in my opinion, they should explore the bootstrapping phase because there is so much you can learn before starting to scale and maybe seeing, do you need investors or not? So, and on top of that, so not only you bootstrap your company, but also you have built a tool for LinkedIn, and I'm a big fan of growing a business with LinkedIn. So here we are today. I let you introduce yourself.
Thanks for having me first of all, and thanks for opening the conversation. I mean, as you said, we've been chatting on LinkedIn and liking each other's posts and stuff like that for a while now, and here we are. So thank you for bringing me on.
Thank you for having me.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and I can just echo what you're saying. Like for a lot of companies, funding may be the way to go at some point. But I believe that most companies, if not all companies, could and perhaps should start by bootstrapping. There's so much you can do yourself. It just doesn't seem that way, and it's also not the narrative that is being pushed, right? And exactly. And that's sort of my whole thing, and that's what we did, and that's what we can get into as well. But rightly, as you said, we have a company, Shield, where we have been redefining LinkedIn analytics since 2019 commercially. Fully bootstrapped, beyond 1 million USD in annual recurring revenue, and have happy employees, run the company full remote, and are profitable. So yeah, happy to talk about that.
Cool. So let's go back in time. When did you start?
So we started the company in Shield, that is, in 2018. Mm-hmm. Well, that's when we incorporated. We knew that we needed a legal entity at that point in time, but we commercialized in 2019. And it was a transition. My co-founder and I had an agency before that, a product studio, a full stack service design agency. We called it different things at different times. But we worked with some interesting partners, some local giants, if you will, here in Denmark. And we're looking for something to spin out as a startup, as a scalable tech startup.
Yeah. So what were you doing exactly? Were you a software development company?
Yeah, not really. I mean, we're more like, my background comes from design and solving problems with design, both in the real world and online, so to speak. And my co-founder is the CTO type, right? So we could bring ideas to life. That's how we like to put it. And that's what we helped larger companies with when they had ideas. And R&D and development inside larger companies is often expensive. So they could bring in someone like us to do it quicker and faster and validate their ideas in the market sooner.
So that's what you started with. And it was just straight after university.
Absolutely. I mean, it was straight out of university. So none of us, my co-founder Alex and myself, has had a real job, so to speak, a 9 to 5. We've always been building, always been selling, always been online, always been playing around. Also a lot of failures down the path of our journeys. But we knew that we wanted to do full-time entrepreneurship as we finished our studies, and so that's what we did.
So when we had a little chat earlier, you mentioned that you had been testing several ideas before landing on Shield. So how did you proceed, and what was the intention? The intention was to really find something scalable, right?
Yeah, I mean, scalable for sure. But I would say first and foremost, finding or identifying a problem worth solving. There were many good ideas or seemingly good ideas floating around. But we don't just take good ideas at face value. We would like to see whether they're good ideas first, right? So we were in different areas trying to build stuff, but quickly realized that, hey, this is a nice to have, or this problem is not really a problem. It's merely a pain that someone has, 5 minutes a day or whatever. And so these were not worth pursuing, in our opinion. And so
can you
when
give some ideas out of curiosity?
Sorry?
What were some of the ideas you have tested and you realize it's not working? It's not a big problem. Maybe nobody's going to pay for it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember one clearly. There was a crisis management tool, and not that crisis does not need managing. Of course they do. But the idea that the stakeholders in the room had at the time, or the things we picked up on, was not connected with reality. It was like we can do all kinds of things, and we should build this and that. And to me, it sounded like if someone wise packed that into a deck, they could probably raise money.
Yes.
But through our initial exploration and even just questions in the room to the stakeholders who seemingly had the problem, we soon realized that, hey, this is not for us, at least. Maybe it's for someone else, and maybe it could work. But I mean, what we did didn't show promising signals.
You're making a very good point. There are many problems that are out there that are not worth solving. It's not that we shouldn't be thinking about them. They are there, but maybe they're not worth solving for us because we don't have the right network or the right expertise. Maybe they're not worth solving now because timing in the market is not there yet. And maybe it's not worth solving because actually there is nobody to pay for it to be solved. Some problems are just problems. It's not because there is a problem that there is an obvious solution. We have to be, as founders, I'm becoming so cynical, more and more cynical, because actually, like, I went from being a big dreamer, impact oriented and so on, impact, to realizing if you actually can sell the solution, there's been a journey for me for 10, 15 years to building stuff. So, but if actually there is nobody buying it, it's pointless. You're just ruining your health, energy. It's not worth it. So that's why I advise founders to always, at an idea stage, go find customers, pitch it, and they pay. Can they pay? And they put a little bit of money, even if it's €2, it's significant.
Exactly, and I mean that's what we did as well. I can draw a direct parallel, because when we initially came into the space that ended up being Shield, we first sold a research project, and that was to the customers who said they would be willing to pay for a solution, right? So we were like, okay, the solution does not exist, and if we are to look into it, that's going to cost you some money. And if the problem is really worth solving for you guys, then you would be likely to pay money for someone to look into it, right? And so what started as a research project, actually selling them a service, then led to a proof of technology. We figured out, can we get the data that we would actually need to create a solution? And so we could, and then we told them, hey, we can actually try and build an MVP for you guys and create a pilot project around that. And then we sold them a pilot project. And this is long before we had a Stripe connected and we had subscriptions or anything like that, right? It was just easing into it, following the money from the customers who had a big enough problem that was worth solving and paying for. So to your point, basically,
we have to follow the money. Always follow the money. Somebody needs to pay for it, and we have to figure it out quite quickly. Who's going to pay for it?
Exactly. And like the sooner the better.
Yes, the sooner the better. And you also mentioned a good point. Can we actually access the resources we need to build it, like data?
Yes.
If you're building something that needs data, but you don't have access to the data, or it's super a long process to get access to it, maybe not worth it. Find something else.
Absolutely. And in our case, this was one of the concerns. Like, people told us that, hey, it's impossible. There's nothing out there at that point in time. I know the landscape is different today, but at that time, there was no one who basically pulled the data that we managed to pull and showed it in a dashboard. People were showing us their spreadsheets and how they did it manually, and basically told us, hey, it's impossible. We've tried everything, right? And of course, we thought that was interesting. Like, hey, if you say this, it's impossible, then maybe it's actually possible, and there's something scalable in it, if no one has done it.
So that's the story of Shield, right?
That's absolutely, yeah.
Exactly. So Shield, you have the agency. We're helping develop great products for clients. So you're funded, you're paying yourself from day one because you have clients, right?
Yep.
Then you see that there is this problem about analytics within LinkedIn, right? And so can you talk about this first customer you had?
Yes, absolutely. I mean,
how did you get in touch with them? How did this problem come to you, or did it come to you?
Absolutely. So from the agency, that's where it originated within that space. We had done some smart partnerships with, as I mentioned, local giants, so to speak. And we were in the room where they had conversations about customer or client problems. We were in the room with them and their clients and so on. And that's where we first picked up on this employee advocacy thing, right? That someone at a big bank here in Denmark were actually empowering their employees to be active on LinkedIn. But they were saying things like, it's impossible to quantify the effort. It's impossible to figure out what's working. It's impossible to figure out who needs help at what stage, right? And all of that screamed at, lack of data to generate the insight. And so that's how it started. And then, of course, we probed further, and it was interesting to us to figure that out and see if we could build something for it, which is eventually what led to Shield. But that's how it originated.
Cool. So, okay. So that was in 2018, 2019?
Yeah.
So when did you move from agency to startup?
So it was a transition phase, right? Because as both companies were bootstrapped, we had to manage the money and make sure that we could keep going, that we wouldn't end up in a red zone territory, having to go bankrupt. And so we leaned into Shield as we went along. And I think the transition period took around 8 months, 10 months from being full-time agency to being full-time Shield. And so I remember clearly in the office, me and Alex, initially he was working on Shield 1 day a week, and I did it more sporadically, right? That's how it started. Like, I had customer meetings and calls with stakeholders as they were available to me, and he could just sit down and focus on the technology, right? So that's how we did it at first, until we could sell the research project, could sell the pilot projects, and then later on could sell actual recurring subscriptions to the software.
And today, how many users do you have?
So we have around 8,000 users right now, and we've had many more through the system, of course, throughout the last couple of years, and have pivoted back and forth between different customer segments at different times, and are now actually returning to where we started, back to the roots, so to speak. These bigger companies, professional service firms, knowledge-heavy companies where people are the product. Because in that case, it makes a lot of sense to have your employees be active on LinkedIn.
Exactly. So let's go to use some of your go-to-market strategies, because this is like a strategy you're going to be focusing on moving forward. How did you grow? What was for you what was the first strategy, and for what reason, and which strategy helped you start getting these users?
Yeah, I mean,
At
the beginning, it was a lot of networking, figuring out like, okay, these people talk about employee advocacy, so let's get into that conversation. And from there, being in the right room at the right time, basically going where our customers or potential customers already are and are already having conversations about the problem and the activities around it. I mean, being in that space helped us a lot to build the relationships, be part of the conversations, figure out the pains, and then ultimately say, hey guys, we have this. Is that interesting to you? Knowing that it probably would be, and it was, and they were keen to try. So that's what we did. And that's what we do.
Online or offline?
Both. So it started offline, but we very quickly started using LinkedIn ourselves to get in touch with more people like the ones we saw and talk with offline. Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. I mean, absolutely. And that helped a lot. And you know, that's how we ultimately ended up growing faster. That was, of course,
leveraging
online.
LinkedIn. Yeah. Where did you find these communities offline? Often for founders, it's difficult to know where your clients hang out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you have to put yourselves in their shoes and be like, where would I go for information for my role or for the challenge that I have? And so we quickly found groups with people across companies where they were talking about, you know, these things, employer branding, employee advocacy, and so on. And it was basically just infiltrating in a positive way. In a genuine way, in a way where our curiosity was leading us, and that paid off. I mean, we have customers who have been with us since that early phase. I mean, one of our pilot customers has just expanded from local to Nordic to global level with us over the years. Yeah. So I mean, it works.
There is so much value, extreme value, under tapped. It's in extreme value in building relationships. In getting
Absolutely.
to know people, it's completely unscalable until it becomes scalable.
Yes.
In a predictable way. I think that there is, we're in a society where things go so fast and we use tech so much that we tend to think the only way to go is to use tech. We need to skip. We don't see the groundwork, the human relationships 100%. That have been built. They may, probably because we look at these companies from the outside, and for us, we see them online, and we expect that everything started online, when there has been so much work done before this started visible.
I mean, you must see it all the time. I assume that founders, think they have to solve everything with technology, when in fact they can solve it with hard labor. But no one wants to do the dirty work, right? And that's what we did. And I think one of the hacks, to use a word like that, early on was to provide excellent customer support. I mean, I went out of my way on the phone responding to tickets coming in. Not around the clock. I mean, I was sleeping, I was being mindful of my health, but that took priority. It was just, okay, the customer has a problem, I'm going to solve it, whatever it takes. And that helped a lot as well. Like, we had customers screenshotting conversations in support and sharing it with others. Like, this is the customer support I got at Shield. And we still, try and do that to the best of our ability today. And it's just valuable. It builds relationships, to your point.
Exactly. And it's very valuable that you share that. It reminds me that, so in their very early days, Theory.com, which is one of the largest crypto platforms in the Nordics, started in Norway. I was coaching them when they were like at 1,000 users. And then I remember the current CEO was telling us, and this is when I decided that we needed to invest as well. He told us, this is the CEO and CTO. I am on my phone myself answering questions from the users. And in his case, I remember like he was awake at 4 a.m. because he's obsessed. He was obsessed. And that stamina and drive is not only for those who want to raise money, is when you want to invest, you need to, as an investor, you need to like the idea, but it's not it really. It's all about the founder. You need to like the founder. You need to admire the founder. The founder needs to give you something. That impression that you can't even put words on it. I even find it hard to put words on it now. So it's and it translates in having this dedication for your business, dedication for the right activities in your business, beyond the dedication for the business, because we can all just work hard and not work smart, but knowing exactly what you should focus on, such as customer support, which sounds like an activity that, is just like on the side for a company. Customer support, but what's that? Helping them fix bugs, but it matters. It's
what you have to do. I mean, and I think that sounds like a great founder, CEO that you're talking about right there. I mean, that is something I see as well with founders. Like some founders, especially those who take on the CEO title, I mean, some of them are entitled. I mean, they feel like customer service is beneath me. It's not my job. It's not on my job description as a CEO. I'm the public facing company. I should talk to important people, and I'm like, hey, the most important people you can talk to are your customers, and if they have problems, you better fix them, right? Like, there's no excuse. And this is what we do today as well. Like, I'm in the trenches every day with my team. Like, I don't care, that I'm the CEO. I'm the CEO because I happen to be there on day one. I just want to solve the problems, build the company, build a workplace where people are happy and fulfilled, right? That's what matters, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get that done. And I don't dwell on titles, and no one in our company does. And I think that has been helpful, to us along the way as well.
I don't know. I mean, to me, that's basically Shield, your second venture, or like even first venture, because it was just 1 year after you started.
I would say first,
first big venture. And you have the maturity that, I mean, I got after many years, because and many founders, I believe, are in that where they believe it's not that the CEO is important, but that there is something comes with the CEO title. Today, I don't care, even I think on my LinkedIn, it says founder and at the visionary company. I don't want to be the CEO. I don't care about being a CEO. For me, I understood that actually it's a very humbling process.
Yes,
the CEO has to, if you have an office space, the CEO should be cleaning the toilet,
Exactly. I mean, I just did actually before jumping on this call because it was 30. So I had to do that. But no, you're absolutely right. I think, the CEO title helps to get in the room or get in the meeting or, open some doors. And that's why I use it, to be honest. I don't give a shit, like, pardon my language, but it doesn't matter anything to me. It doesn't boost my ego. It doesn't, do any of that. I don't need that, right? What it helps me with, I do need, to talk to customers. So using the title, that helps me get in the room and talk to another C-level at a much bigger company. So that's great. It comes with some benefits, but other than that, I mean, it's just a title like everything else. All that matters is the work. That's how I see it.
Yes, that's the right philosophy to have. Today, you have 8,000 users, 15 employees. You're profitable. And you mentioned actually in the beginning of this conversation that you are over $1 million in annual recurring revenue, right?
Yes.
What are your last three advice?
My what?
Last three advice. Three advice, if we can sum up, for founders who wants to bootstrap.
Yeah. So, I mean, getting to revenue as early as possible should probably be the goal. And I would say, almost no matter how you get it, I mean, don't sell something that is unrelated to your business. I mean, obviously, right? You have to validate the market, but figuring out, what is validated happens through sales, in my opinion.
Yes.
Whereas when you talk about whether the thing you're building works, whether it solves the problem, whether it's easy to use and so on, that's form and function. That's all in the build space, right? That doesn't validate a market. It validates whether the product works, solves the problem, and so on. Back to your point as well, like, some people would love the product and how it works and solves the problem for them, but they're not willing to pay. And ultimately, at the end of the day, especially when you want to bootstrap a company, if no one's willing to pay, you have no company, right? There's nothing, right? You may have a great product. You may even have great distribution. But if no one's willing to pay, there's nothing, right? And then I would say, when I work with founders myself in the capacity of a mentor and coach, what I often see is that they run against the wall with how they have packaged the product. So the core offering remains the same, but they can change how they go to market with it, right? And who they approach with the thing. So you can package it differently, right? Like an example would be coffee. Great example. In some places, you sit and enjoy your coffee for a long time. But if you go to the playground on weekends at 10 a.m., coffee has a completely different purpose. That is keeping parents awake and alert with their kids, right? And if you phrase it in a different way, in a different setting, people will, some people will buy. Whereas if you phrase it in another way, people won't, right? So my advice to founders early on is experiment with packaging if you know your co-offering is actually solving the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Your problem may be the way you talk about it, the way you present it, the way you price it, and so on, rather than changing the whole thing every time you get feedback, right?
Yes, I agree. I see that. I see that often. And it's a mistake we can make as a founder, even when we know the theory. We can fall into the trap until we're like, what am I doing? I'm just, I say this because myself right now, we're designing some new products.
Yeah.
And we tend to, because I love it, because that's the, it's like adding features.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, but I want to create more value. So let's add this. I'm sure they will enjoy it. Then I'm like, do you listen to yourself?
Yes.
You're exactly doing what you advise not to do. Maybe there's no need to add more features. This is it. Actually, the customer doesn't know about all these other features that you can add. So let's just communicate this more simple product, sell it, validate it. Yes. And when you have validated, explore if needed, if there is a need for more.
Absolutely.
Maybe there is no need to overcomplicate and invest more time in building and and recreating something. Like we have a saying here in Norway from a billionaire, Peter Stordalen, who says, sell your strawberries. Sell just what you have, basically. It means. Yes. And actually his company is called Strawberry Capital, his investment company.
Love that.
It's really about just sell what you have. Don't start selling other stuff and adding apples. Oh, no, I'm sure you want pears as well. Let's create a box with like apples, bananas, because that's no, just like strawberries. One box, strawberry, one box.
100%. 100%. I think even, translating into, B2B SaaS, let's say, and selling to bigger companies. I mean, sell what you have has been my philosophy all along. So when I meet someone in a call and they're like, hey, we would like to buy and engage with you if you add this, this, and that. And I'm like, nah, that's not how it works. You can buy our strawberries, right? To stay in the analogy, like this is what we have today. So if you engage with us now, if you sign up for an annual deal or whatever, then this is what you're going to get. I'm not going to make you any promises about the future. I'm not going to accommodate your request of custom integrations or anything, This is what you're going to get. And if you don't want or need that right now, that's completely okay, right? We can talk in 3, 6, 9 months and see how we have changed, how you have evolved. Yeah, it is.
Founder, I have a company in my portfolio right now who's tempted to add features because they see that they have lost one client in particular that went for their competitor because the competitor offered that feature. And it's not that the client is actually using that feature. It's just that they want to have the option. Maybe, it sounds good to have all these features. So how do you do
absolutely.
that?
I mean, my philosophy is... I think my philosophy is back to the strawberries. Like this is what we do. This is what we have. This is what we sell. And someone else may be selling bigger strawberries, more strawberries, different strawberries. But I mean, it's not what we do. Like we sell this and we attract the people who need this, right? And then we go on a journey with our customers and expand what we are doing with those that are already happy with our first batch of strawberries, right? Yes. And then we go from there. And I think that's much more sustainable in terms of building. You're building the right thing before building it right when you don't, go in all directions all the time, right? But just stick to what stick to what's validated, and just roll from there. It's easy to bloat software, to just add. Feature creep is very real, especially amongst technical founders. And it's just, a big pitfall.
Yes. And before adding more features, we need to make sure that it's not just one client that wants it, that it's validated by several, ready to pay for it. And also, I was going to say, Now I forgot.
No, but I can just pick that up right away, because what you're saying is so true. Like, if you listen to one customer and you build what they want, I mean, hopefully they're paying you by the time you start accommodating their wishes, right? But, so let's say that they are paying you, and if you're early, they may account for the majority of revenue, right? So you want to please them, obviously, right? Without them, it's a huge setback. But the thing is, even when you build what they want, they may not stick around. And all of a sudden, you've built a custom solution for one client that you hadn't validated with others because you were so tunnel visioned on making them happy. And now they leave because whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then you're fucked.
And I remember now what I wanted to say. So actually, this company I was talking to, I said, look, but why did they leave? You know, is it just it's very curious. You know, they invest time in the relationship as well, the integration. Why are they leaving you? And actually, so there is a bias here. The investor in that company asked them to move from the solution from my client to a solution that he has connections to.
Okay.
So the investor came and said, no, I'm your investor. You need to use now the other company, because probably he's an investor there or whatever. So it's not just like about the features. It's also understanding what's happening really, talking to the client and understanding what's the process. Why are they really leaving?
Yep.
Is it just the feature? Doesn't make sense.
No, absolutely.
We've been working together for 2 years. So let's
exactly. I mean, if it was only
well, so you can get
sure.
into these details, and they got into understanding actually there is somebody behind it that has made
those pulling the strings. Yeah,
exactly.
No, I mean that's really a good observation, because if it was only the feature, you could just build the feature, right? But if someone's behind the scenes pulling the strings, which happens, it could also be another C-level or another executive who just has a friend at a different company or prefers this software or how it looks or whatever it may be. People make decisions like that all the time, right? So I think the relationship is incredibly important. I mean, we've had customers and do have customers today who I would argue are still with us, of course, because the software solves the problem. But if it was only that, they would probably have found something else. But our strong relationship and care towards them is really what makes them stick around. And that is despite friction and so on. I just wanted to add a comment to what you were saying, like understanding your customers, not only when they are your customers, but also as they depart, when they exit or churn or leave or whatever. Like onboarding is important. I think we can all agree. Getting people up and running, having them adopt the software, implement it properly, and so on. But I would say the offboarding is as important. It's very common with exit surveys. Once you've canceled, you get an email, select your reason, and that's good. But I would say like the qualitative aspect of it, really understanding and spending time on someone who no longer pays you is what people don't do very often, but may reveal really good insights as to what went wrong or what you could have done better. So we do a whole lot of that as well, and that's where we learn a lot.
Yes. So we have validate through sales, sell what you have, sell your strawberries. Relationships are incredibly important.
Yeah.
Onboarding and offboarding.
Yes. Yeah, and I would say like a note on product market fit, which is this elusive thing that we all chase as founders, right? I just wanted to share
product market fit never happens.
It's continuous for sure. But I wanted to just share with you how I think about it and see what you think. Just if you're down for that. I break it down into two things. It's basically a spectrum, right? It's an ever ongoing thing, right? It's not binary. It's not like you don't have it or you have it. It's like you can always improve your product market fit. It should evolve. So that's the baseline. But I break it down into two things. There's the product, and then there's the sales and the revenue, right? So breaking it into to build and sell, basically. Around the product and service, it's product market fit happens when you actually solve the problem, right? So how do you know? My measure is that users keep using the product, right? They keep coming back to it at a frequency that makes sense for whatever it is you're doing, right? So if it's the gym, if you built a gym, they come back a few times a week. Then you know that your gym is probably solving their problem.
Product market fit, yeah.
Yeah, so that's around the product, right? And the other side of product market fit is the business side of it, right? Are people willing to pay, but not only once, but again and again, right? Yeah. So if you have a subscription-based company, it's obviously recurring payments from the same customer. And if you sell like ice cream or whatever in your booth, then it's repeat sales to the same customer. So they come back and are willing to pay again. Because the first time could be a mistake, and then they cancel, whatever. So this is how I break it down. Like, is there repeat usage patterns and is there repeat payment patterns? And the more signals you have in both of these camps, the better your product market fit is. That's how I look at it. But I'm curious what you think.
I wonder, I agree with you. Then I want to add a third point. What would be the case if this is some sort of one-time product?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good question. I would say that then what happens as in the aftermath after having used or experienced or dealt with the one-time purchase? Do people tell their friends about it? Do people talk about the experience online? Do people go do something similar or whatever after? So I think there are ways to figure out what the repeat usage would be in that case, or the repeat sales. Do they buy other
products from you?
Yes, yeah, exactly. You may try, one coffee in the shop one day, but you come back and try a tea or whatever because you had a good experience with that product. So I think there are other factors as well, but to simplify, this is what I broke it down to. But I agree with you.
Very good point. Thank you for sharing your story and advice for founders. We stay in touch and we speak very soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.